Gonna be a real short video this week. I actually kind of split things up this week into like 2 different days, and I wound up doing like a bunch of stuff with a couple of these hives in the middle and that one on the end, and then the nooks. I did kind of that stuff in the middle of the week. And today I'm just kind of spot checking to see where everybody's at, because I know we're in a good flow. Everybody's building wax. Nobody's really thinking about swarming anymore. I haven't seen any more swarm cells in the last week or so, so I'm not super concerned about that at the moment. I just want to make sure that they have enough space. And I come to check this one, and they had, because I made those nooks last week, I had taken frames out of these 3 hives and a couple out of those. And so these guys had they had 4 brand new frames in here last week, and they've got them all drawn like both sides are like over halfway. So I'm probably going to go ahead and put a super on this hive. This is going to be one of the, this will be the only double that gets a super. This one, they still got 2 frames to draw out on top, so I'll wait a week on that one before I put a super on it. These guys, they still have like two frames. This one was this was one of the last queens to emerge from the first batch I did of nooks, and she was a question mark, because up until this point I hadn't found any eggs in there or anything. I found eggs in there today, so I'm happy with that. These guys were packed out, so they got a super today. These guys were packed out, so they got a super today. This queen was a little slow going, but it was one of the smallest nooks that came out of the first batch I did. I think they ended up having a lot of winter bees, and so their population died off real quick. And by the time she hatched, there was only like 2.5 frames of bees left in there. And I actually went about 3-4 weeks ago and I added an extra frame of cat brood just to kind of boost the population, and they're actually doing really well now. She's got like 4 frames of eggs and brood, and then a couple frames of honey, and they got like 2 frames they're still working on, so they're not going to get a super yet. This hive is they're the ones that decided to supersede the other queen, and I ended up moving her down there to that other hive with a pink lid, and they superseded her anyways. So I guess it was just her time. That's just the way it goes sometimes. You know, you want to keep all the queens and you want to keep all the bees, but it just don't work that way sometimes. So they made queen cells which should have emerged this week, like the middle of the week. So it's going to be like 2 more weeks before I even go in this hive. This hive I am going to check today, and I'll probably video that, because when I checked it last week, there weren't any new eggs in it, which is a little bit concerning. I mean, it could have just been circumstance. I could have just missed them, I guess. So this week I'm checking back on this one to see if there's any eggs, new larvae. If not, I may wind up having to put a frame of eggs in here for them to make a new queen. I'm not sure what happened with this one, or if she's in there and maybe I just didn't see the eggs. I don't know. I mean, they had like 3-4 day old larvae when I checked, but they didn't have any like new eggs. So we'll see how that goes. And then this hive, I wound up adding a super on. They've got half the super drawn out already. Moved them to an 8 frame box. This was one of the spare queens that I got, where I got a double queen out of a hive. So put her in here. They were packed out on that 4-frame, because my nooks are only 4-frame nooks. So they were packed out on that 4-frame nook. But that's why I like these 8-frame boxes, because I can stick a 4-frame nook in there. Then you're only doubling their space. It's not like, you know, they got 6 empty frames in there with them, because I don't have a lot of extra drawn comb. So what I'm putting in there is blank foundations. Now, most of what I'm putting in there is either the Pierco plastic or wooden frames with wax sheets. That's all I'm using this year. I like the Pierco. The bees like it. They draw it out really quick. Versus the plastic foundations, the rubber foundations, they don't like them at all. And half the time they just strip the wax off of them. And then I go in there and put more wax on it, and then they just draw burr comb. And it's just like I've done this for weeks with some of these hives, and I just get tired of it. And so I'm just at the point where I'm just yanking all of them rubber plastic foundations out, and I'm either going to use the Pierco solid plastic foundations, or if I'm using a wood frame, I'm going to put a wax sheet in it. It takes me, you know, a little bit of time. It takes me, you know, a little bit of time to, you know, I'd say I could put wax sheets, because when I put the wax sheets in the frames, I melt wax across the top rail of the frame and like glue it in, and then I put a piece of wire at the bottom, like a support wire. And I've had great success with that. Just waxing them in at the top and one piece of wire at the bottom. It works great, but it does take time. You know, if it takes me 5-6 minutes a frame, that's just putting the wax sheet in. You know, you're talking, it's going to take me an hour, almost an hour, to do a 10-frame box. So yeah, it does take time, but I've got time. This is why I do this, because I got extra time. You know, these 2 nooks, also spare queens that I got out of that one hive. It had 3 emerge. I took 2 of them and put them in here. And then these 3 are the nooks I made last week from the hive that superseded the queen from the pink hive down there. This hive I got to check today because I only seen like a couple eggs in there the other day, and I wanted to recheck this one. But these guys were doing great. These guys were doing great, but I put the super on top, and the super was on there for like 3 weeks. Absolutely refused to move up to the super. They covered the whole top of the deep box with burr comb. I mean, the whole top of the deep box with burr comb, and I just did not move up at all. They were just, I don't know what they're doing. So I put the super on the bottom. We're going to check it to see if they're making any progress. But that's about it. That's what I'm doing today. So this is, you know, I made a short about this yesterday. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, no matter how much you know about something, the experience that you lack will definitely teach you some lessons. And so there's a space here because I moved those 4 down. Because I took this hive that was right here, and I just put the whole thing on top of this one. Well, in between the super. And so this hive is the one that had 3 queens in it 2 weeks ago. And I know it had 3 queens in it because I seen all 3 of them. And I took 2 of them out. I left 1 in there. Well, I guess she didn't return from mating like I said, I've kind of said this before, but we do have a lot of dragonflies around here, and that is kind of there are also European hornets and other things out there. So there's no telling why she didn't come back from mating, but she didn't come back from mating. And bees without a queen are going to do one thing. They're going to start storing honey. And so, because she didn't come back from mating, when they were hopelessly queenless, they just started filling everything with honey. They literally had 80% of that box filled with honey. And that's one thing I've noticed is if they have a queen cell in there, or if they have a virgin queen in there, or a queen that's went out on mating flights and came back, they'll leave, a section of the brood or the comb empty in the middle. They won't fill it with honey. Even if they're filling everything else with honey, they won't fill that section in the middle with honey. And they filled everything with honey. So I don't really have the time right now to deal with that. I'll just let them start making honey, and I'll just keep adding supers to that hive, because it's going to be a monster now, because the whole box is full of bees, and they still got like 2 frames of emerging brood. So we're just going to let them have what they want to have, I guess. It's just a lesson learned, Not to say that I could have did anything different that would have changed anything, because I could have left all 3 queens in there and they could have just swarmed and there not be any bees in the box. So I think it's one of those things you kind of got to take in stride, just, make a mental note of it, and maybe try to do something different in the future. Maybe not. Maybe I do the same exact thing next time. And maybe she makes it back for mating next time. I think that's just kind of part of the gambit that we play, is, we're trying to multiply, they're trying to multiply, and you just got to figure out what the middle ground is. Outside of that, I checked these two look good. They got a queen in them. These two had the older queen cells that came from the hive that superseded the queen. This one actually had brand new queen cells. They were drawn out. But I'm all in the spirit of learning and trying to do new things. In these two, the frames that I put in there, they had 4 or 5 queen cells on the frames that they had. So what I did is, in order to keep these guys on the same page as these two, I pulled out 3 of the queen cells out of these, and I stuck 3 queen cells in this one and knocked down the new ones that they had. Is that a mistake? Will they take them? Will they not take them? We'll see. It won't be the end of the world either way. I just figured it was worth a shot, because they were literally like 3 days out drawing queen cells. So I'd rather them not draw queen cells with older larvae. So I just took a couple of the same age queen cells out of these frames, and then stuck them in these frames, like stuck them up in there nice and neat like. So hopefully they accept at least one of them. We'll see how it goes in a couple weeks though. These all look good. These guys look good. They got brood and larvae in there. These guys look good. They're a little bit smaller, but they got brood and larvae in there. They're gonna build up. So we'll see how it goes. It's another day, another day.